Coming up on Pirate News Network, Jennifer Soares will tell you about freshmen living on campus next year and the new requirements ECU just implemented. Those stories and more on Pirate News Network.
From the School of Communication Studio at East Carolina University, this is Pirate News Network.
Hello, I'm Javante Frederick for Pirate News Network. Oil prices have spiked to the highest level in 9 months, thanks to Iran's decision to cut oil exports to Britain and France. U.S. crude for April delivery jumped nearly 2%, while Europe's crude hit the highest price in more than a year. Analysts say the jump in price isn't so much a demand issue as simply fear over a shortage. But even so, this could translate to a higher cost for drivers. The current average price for a gallon of regular gasoline is up to $3.85, according to AAA. Analysts also say prices could rise as high as $5 per gallon by the summer. According to a new rule, all freshmen must live on campus next year. Jennifer Soares took a look into what the new requirements mean for all incoming students.
Starting next year, all incoming freshmen will be required to live in residence halls. ECU officials have been working on this decision for years and plan to have freshmen stay in the dorms unless they meet the exceptions. Associate Vice Chancellor of Campus Living and Dining Services, William McCartney, believes that this was the best idea for students starting out at ECU.
Students who live on campus get higher grade point averages. They're more likely to graduate in 4 years. They're more likely to graduate at all.
ECU and other universities have had tuition increases, but McCartney says that the schools should not suffer from these increases.
We're not putting ourselves in a competitive disadvantage where suddenly someone is going to say, oh, I'm going to go to Appalachian State now because that's significantly cheaper than ECU.
According to McCartney, living on campus will help students maintain retention at the university. And in the 2009-2010 school year, students who lived on campus had a 5% higher chance of returning to campus their sophomore year. The only way for someone to qualify for living off campus is if they are over the age of 21, married, have a child, live within 35 miles of the school, or have served in the military. Most students, like senior English major Catherine Little, agree that this idea will be good for students to get to know other freshmen who are moving away from home for the first time.
I think that it's really good as far as encouraging students to get involved with the community life that ECU does offer.
ECU will house over 4,000 freshmen next year, and McCartney says that they have plenty of room for students.
We expect no problem next year, actually. The freshman class size projections are 4,000. Of that, we don't expect to house all 4,000.
The cost of living on campus will not be cheaper. In fact, the cost has gone up $50 per semester.
Our meal plan costs won't be going up at all next year. We are limiting and eliminating some of our meal plans, but the ones that we're keeping will be the exact same cost next year.
Campus Living has more plans for students in the future, including tearing down Belk Residence Hall and adding 2 new buildings and a swimming pool. I'm Jennifer Soares reporting for The Source.
A hospital in Richmond County, North Carolina is dealing with an unusual problem. Bats are flying around the building. Catherine Bertram has the story.
I've had some surgeries there before.
Rockingham residents still have a hard time believing.
Almost seems like a story out of a movie.
A colony of bats has taken up residence in the walls of their hospital. People here say you can see the bats flying around the roof at night.
This is the first time we've had to deal with this type of issue.
Health Director Tommy Jarrell says he got a call 2 weeks ago that bats were flying in and out of patients' rooms. He worried about the health risks.
We've actually sent staff out to retrieve some of the bats, and we sent those into the state lab for testing of rabies.
Concerned about rabies and fungal infections from bat droppings, the hospital evacuated the majority of the building, moving more than a dozen patients over the weekend and shutting down most of the facilities except for the emergency room.
The patients at the hospital were offered the prophylaxis vaccine, which is a post-exposure vaccine to rabies.
Now a special company is sealing cracks in the walls and installing a special door that keeps the bats from returning. Hospital officials say they're working around the clock to remove their unwelcome visitors.
Some good news on the employment front. Initial jobless claims have fallen to their lowest level in nearly 4 years. The Labor Department says 352,000 people filed for initial unemployment benefits last week. That's down from 402,000 claims the previous week. It's the fewest number of jobless claims since April 2008. A debate is brewing in Virginia over women's reproductive rights. Lawmakers are at odds over contraception, abortion, and when life begins. CNN's Athena Jones reports.
The battle over women's reproductive rights is playing out in state houses around the country. In Virginia, the House of Delegates just passed a bill that says life begins at conception and gives unborn children at all stages of development, including embryos, the same rights available to you and me.
It grants recognition that there's a human being here. By itself, this cannot criminalize abortion.
While the bill doesn't directly challenge the landmark Roe v. Wade Supreme Court decision affirming a woman's right to an abortion, Republican Delegate Bob Marshall, the bill's sponsor and a longtime abortion opponent, acknowledges it's a step in that direction.
We need to get back to the respect for life that we used to have in this country that's been lost.
The bill hasn't yet passed the state Senate. The fight over the legislation here in Richmond has been fierce, with opponents saying the bill will severely restrict women's reproductive rights. Democratic Delegate Eileen Filler-Corn worries the measure could reduce access to forms of contraception that prevent the implantation of fertilized eggs.
This all is an overreach by the state and by the government, and these decisions should be left to a woman and her physician, medical professional. This is a slippery slope, and eventually the goal of the personhood movement is to ensure that birth control is illegal.
The battle in Virginia isn't unique. A similar bill is now pending in Oklahoma's legislature.
What I would say is that we're in the middle of a wave of these kinds of bills, and they're happening across the country. We're also seeing ballot initiatives being introduced.
Virginia's Governor Robert McDonnell has said he will review the bill if it passes the state Senate, but he hasn't committed to signing it. Whatever happens in Virginia, one thing is certain. 39 years after Roe v. Wade, the debate over women's reproductive rights is not going away. Athena Jones, CNN, Richmond, Virginia.
Coming up next on Pirate News Network, I'll give you more information on Michelle Obama's efforts in Operation Reentry.
Netflix won't be coming to a cable service anytime soon. It appears Netflix's deal with a major cable service is a no-go. Despite a report that Netflix was talking to cable operators about adding Netflix in an on-demand format, distributors don't seem to be biting. Many cable providers already have on-demand channels, and some view Netflix as competition. Deadline Hollywood reports Comcast, DirecTV, and Dish have all declined a deal. And the LA Times is reporting that executives that sell Netflix content say the company wouldn't be able to create an on-demand channel under the terms of its current deals. The Times reports Netflix is downplaying speculation on such an agreement. Soldiers returning from the war may have difficult time adjusting to their new lives. ECU and the First Lady are teaming up to develop a program that will help these heroes truly come home. Andrea Worley has the story.
After paying the ultimate price for helping their country, soldiers now need their country to do the same for them.
We're all part of this network of resources for these returning soldiers.
Michelle Obama's project, Operation Reentry, helps soldiers returning from deployment cope with their numerous challenges in reentering society.
The ECU has some affiliation with Operation Reentry, and various members of the different allied health professions, occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech-language pathology, and then from the clinical side, us in the rehab department.
Some wounded warriors face physical disabilities like vision and balance impairment, and even loss of limbs from blast injuries. Other soldiers suffer from post-traumatic stress syndrome, substance abuse, and depression.
Once you are identified, say that you identify something wrong with you, or whatever your injury is, making sure that you receive the care you need not only to treat the injury that is identified, but any other injuries.
This is Andrea Worley reporting for Pirate News Network.
Thank you for watching Pirate News Network. I'm Javante Frederick.